the World Series, and well, between the Shanghai League and Pacific League, tensions start rising due to one wanting expansion and take over Asia, and the other wants to defend the Pacific from imperialism, but doesn't really want to join the Democratic League. And well, not long after this tension starts growing in this feud, the Shanghai League decides to declare war. Which is kind of crazy that they would decide to declare war, though. You might think, but no, it's not. With Japan, India, the Philippines, Thailand, Malaysia, Papua New Guinea, Australia, and New Zealand joining the war. Well, with the Shanghai League having the advantage at first, because, well, they started the war. With them launching an offensive in... Wait, that sounds like a bad area to do the offensive from. Due to graphical issues. It's kind of hard to invade through the Himalayas. Do we even care about the Himalayas? Well, I will. Just for one video, I guess. With China climbing the mountains, but due to this, their offensives in the more mountainous areas are very slow, whereas some of them are more efficient. With New Delhi quickly being threatened, and not long in, the war over Thailand ends with a Thai campaign ends with a victory for China. And they move down, and then they capture the mainland part of Malaysia, I guess. And they take the northern island from Japan. Japan needs its borders fixed, to be honest. That's like that kind of stuff going on. And India is starting to slow down the advances of its enemies. And well, they even managed to launch a counteroffensive near the capital. But this also led to a complete takeover over the most northern part of here. A bit more here, and the advance continues over here. With them managing to push China to the borders in the mountainous areas. At this point, the front line's like this, with them moving the capital to, I guess, Mumbai. It was around there, I believe. And so, they lose their capital. But luckily, they had moved from their capital. Now they're moving in deeper into India on two fronts. But India is able to launch a counteroffensive, which leads to a stalemate. And during the stalemate, the Democratic League and Neutral League takes it, not Neutral League, just the Democratic League takes it upon themselves to move aid into India, seeing that, well, they're most likely going to win at this point. And well, that would be good. And well, that would be pretty good. The launch of the invasion in the Philippines campaign, with Australian troops starting to arrive, although it might be too late, with them getting pushed back, and the capital has finally fallen up there. And then they decide to take over Malaysia to build a naval blockade, I guess, from getting to the shores. But it's not really working, with India getting pushed back again. But on another front, on the front with Pakistan, they managed to make a breakthrough using pretty good tactics. Fast warfare, as fast as you can do it to disrupt the enemies and disorganize them. Well, they move in, and quickly the battle of Karachi breaks out, and they manage to take it. And they push over to meet up with the Afghan border to make it harder. With Vietnam having a bit of a rebellion, quickly a Thai rebellion breaks out. Quickly they start occupying quite significant swaths of land, until China decides to try to stop them, which doesn't do much but aggravate the situation for them. as now they're spread into 100 pockets. Some with forces, some with like nearly none. And while they manage to take over significant portions of the areas, and they decide to launch an offensive into Iran to border with, well, the Americans. And well, that hopefully happens for them. With Iran showing sheer incompetence in trying to fight this, which led to them getting pushed back even further. But as this is happening, China's offensive in the north resumes, leading to about here before they're put back into stalemate. And well, conscription has started in India, quickly bringing more and more troops. / recruits, I guess. Seeing what is happening in some of the other areas with rebellions, Australia decides to restart its liberation of the Philippines campaign, and they call this the Philippines Liberation Campaign. Quickly they move up, and China's forced to retreat out of these islands. And during the rebels in Vietnam declare a nation. So quickly, as you can see, it turns into one of China's occupation zones, basically. As a rebellion has really angered China, to the point where they declared them basically a war zone. And well, they're not too concerned because, well, supplies is coming for them. And well, it pushes back this offensive and this one, creating with Australia deciding to move into Malaysia to help get supply to the rebels. And they then move up north to help with the rebellion. And quickly, they even liberate Thailand before their offensive starts slowing into northern Vietnam, which is a part of China. So technically not a liberation. Well, Japan goes into Sakhalin, and they even land in Manchuria, embarrassing China. And they also land in Korea, embarrassing them again, blowing another loss. And they take other places. As their offensive comes to an end, they have liberated all of this. And then they decide to land in Taiwan, with India's offensive against Iran showing sheer incompetence of Iran, as Iran is failing to predict where they're going to attack from. And while they manage to take the capital, a people's rebellion overthrows Iran and they decide to surrender. And well, while no one's looking, the Kazakh puppet declares independence, which leads to war with China. And while China is becoming more and more disorganized, Pakistan being forced into surrender, and Indian troops marching quickly north to be able to seize an offensive out of it. And they take the opportunity to re-liberate Mumbai, which is a blowing, crushing defeat for the Chinese army. A crushing defeat. And they decide to move into Bangladesh, but before liberating it all, they decide to start an offensive in the Myanmar with the help of, well, Australia, and they quickly manage to take this over, with Japan launching another offensive over here. And they continue their offensive into Manchuria. Well, with the rebellion in Kazakhstan finally managing to push China back, this is a big defeat. And well, propaganda is being used more and more to keep this out of the eyes of the people in the Chinese Empire in our Alternate Future of the World series. So they decided to use any means to do that. And well, Kazakhstan, with a small army created after its overthrowing and end of rebellion, decides to invade. And well, quickly Nepal and Bhutan get occupied by India. And by quickly, it's probably quite a long time because, well, they're mountains. And while the offensive into northern Vietnam and northern Laos goes to a success, liberating them both. And Myanmar is overthrown. And Australia lands in the south near Taiwan over here, with India starting to move into Tibet slowly. And well, promises to liberate different areas, with them trying to get close to Beijing, but every attempt they make all goes bad. And with China finally managing to gather the forces needed to launch a massive counteroffensive, making Japan have a much bigger front line to move forces in. But then it starts to shrink as it gets like this. And against Kazakhstan, they make a measly offensive. But this is embarrassing because it didn't do all their goals, which was to push all invaders out of their territory. Well, they move over close to the capital, but that's where they get stuck, which leads to Australia's second invasion going really well as China's trying to get the forces to the north, which leads to them seizing quite a significant aspect of land. Not aspect, piece of land. And well, India manages to do it. And so does Kazakhstan, with the Chinese Empire offering peace, but it's rejected because they believe they're just trying to get a temporary ceasefire to regroup. And well, he ends up seizing the there. Well, they use this time to launch another offensive against Japan with the goal of launching a crushing defeat. And crushing it is, as it means they lose control over the Korean Peninsula. But quickly they decide to take advantage of the situation and seize all of Manchuria, basically, except the areas close to Beijing. And quickly they advance across Manchuria. And they even manage to get to the Mongolia area. And they advance in. Well, China launches another offensive, basically in the south, as the focus, which it doesn't go as well as they hoped. And it also doesn't go good in the north for the empire that's being formed. And well, stay in tune for the next video to see the fall of the Chinese Empire. And that's all for today's video. Please like, subscribe, and comment. Wild Mapper out, but not until you subscribe. Bye, guys.